Okay, so if our former presentation was on the basics of CER paragraphs using the basic spices, this is for those of you that want to get a little spicier. So this is for those of you, hopefully you're a little farther ahead, or you're looking to challenge yourself or really build on your abilities. So using these stems are not required, but if you want to use them, you can. So as I've told many of you, I am into cooking. So again, the mirepoix is your basics, your onions, carrots, and celery. That's the base of just about everything. Now let's get into some of the more fun spices. So your dills, this looks like curries. This looks like cumin, chili powder. I forget what this one's called. But these are your more exciting spices that are really going to bring out a lot of flavor. And if you want to get into, I think this is called fennel. If you want to get into, and of course, garlic. If you want to get into writing spicier papers and papers that have more complex flavors and have more going on, then these are the intermediate sentence starters that I'd want you to use. Okay, so let's look at a few of these. The first ones would be this describes how, this explains us how, this persuades us to, or this suggests, or this implies. So if we were to use the ones this describes how or this explains how, this is where you want to explain how the evidence works. You will go deeper into the evidence and explain what is going on. This should work well to replace both. If you were to use this demonstrates that, this is important because this basically combines them into one and allows you to use other ones later. So this describes how Columbus mistreated indigenous people. So again, like you do with this demonstrates that you're putting the evidence in your own word. And what is important because you're showing why I use that quote, this is kind of doing both. Or this describes how the experiment turned out differently than I expected if you're doing it in science. Or this describes how libraries can offer opportunities to people in the 21st century. This persuades us to. This works well with evidence that illuminates new or powerful information that should change our view on the topic. So if we were writing a paper on plastic straws, and I provided a bunch of evidence of how they hurt turtles and different wildlife, I could then use the sentence starter, this persuades us to replace plastic straws with paper to improve the environment. Or this persuades us to ask Brent for the key before going to the restroom. This was an issue at my old school when students couldn't go to the restroom without a key. Long story. You guys are interested in it. This persuades us to complete our project and get a good grade. This persuades us to read history from different perspectives. This suggests, this implies. This one is dangerous. This one's really spicy. This is like using, really hot peppers or something. You are saying that the quote does not say this directly, but knowing what you know about the author, the context, or something else, you can draw a conclusion about the evidence and provide deeper insight. So you'd say, this suggests that his motives were to make money all along, and he was not interested in patriotism at all. Or this implies that people from Europe were worse to indigenous people than they were to each other. So again, be careful to using this one because you're really going deep into the evidence. You should really be confident in what you're saying, because this one can end up being embarrassing if there's something you're not seeing, or if you're reading the evidence incorrectly. Okay? So if we were writing a paper and we asked, how should we understand history? Right? And I said, history is complicated, and because of this, it is important to tell history from multiple perspectives, right? This is my claim, and then I already give a quote from Zinn. The treatment of heroes, Columbus, and their victims, the Arwaks, the quiet acceptance of conquest and murder in which the name of progress is the only one aspect of a certain approach to history, in which the past is told from the point of view of governments, conquerors, diplomats, and leaders. So this is from a book written by Howard Zinn, and on page 9. This describes how history has traditionally been told from those in positions of power. So you see, I'm telling you what the quote says, and I'm telling you why I use this quote. This explains how history is usually told from the perspective of the powerful and is leaving out other voices. So if you're familiar with Howard Zinn, a big deal to him is that history is always told from the powerful, and those who aren't in power don't get to tell their story. This persuades us to seek other viewpoints in order to better understand history. So again, if I am looking to better understand history and I'm better to understand an event, I should understand multiple viewpoints of why something happened. Okay? So again, these are the spicier quotes. This implies that our understanding of history may change or deepen as they understand a variety of perspectives, especially those who were not in position of power. So you see how by using these different sentence starters, I'm writing a pretty spicy paragraph here. This is one spicy meatball. This is one spicy paragraph. Okay, guys? All right. The advanced sentence starters. These are the spiciest of all. These are your, Nashville hot chicken, extra hot. This is your, extra spicy taco. This is, I don't know, whatever example you want to use. So the three we're going to look at is this justifies, the inference to be drawn from this is, the implication of this is. So this justifies. So as many of you know, I studied religion and theology, which is the study of God, study of Christianity. So justification is a big term there. If you attend church, maybe you've heard your priest use it. But the concept of justification is to make right. Now, the issue with this is it can and often does become subjective, which means that we don't always agree on what it means. So example, my sister hit me, so I was justified in hitting her back. I was right to hit her back. Not everyone may agree with that. People may still say your sister's smaller than you, or you shouldn't hit a girl if you're a boy reading this, or you shouldn't hit anybody, right? So we still have questions that justifies. Or I do not trust the police, therefore I am justified in not telling them what I know. Not everyone may agree with this. Some people should say, no, you should still tell the police the truth because they're trying to do good, even if there are some you don't trust. Right? My wife is in labor, therefore I am justified in speeding. If, my wife were having a baby and I were driving and I decided to speed to try and get her to the hospital more quickly and a police officer pulled me over, can I say, hey, I had a different thing going on here. I had to speed. The police officer may agree or disagree. Or, again, this is an issue at my old school. I'm using my old school's notes. I had to go to the bathroom really badly, therefore I was justified in leaving Brent's classroom. They called me by my first name at that old school. So, again, this is an issue so relevant at our school. Interesting how the bathroom keeps coming up. But if you have to go really bad and I said you can't go right now, are you justified in leaving because you have to go? Okay. The inference to be drawn from this is, so this is really similar to this implies. The biggest difference is to imply is to hint at something, but to infer is to make an educated guess. To infer is to make a declarative statement. The inference to be drawn from this is that Brent did not want us to use the restroom in the first place. Right? That's one example, that you might produce evidence of the rules I'm putting around you using the bathroom and say, you know what, I don't even think Brent wanted us to go. Or the inference to be drawn from this is Europeans thought they were superior to those of other races, and this is why they treated them so poorly. Again, you are using this sentence stem to show what is going on in this, okay? The implication of this is, what should we do in light of your evidence? This is where you move the reader to action. So again, using something spicy. If you do this in every paragraph, your paper might be a bit much. It starts to sound a little preachy, maybe. But this would work really well in the last sentence of your last paragraph, where you are really trying to prove this is why this person is important, or as you're investigating that, or why we should try to be like this person. Okay. So the implication of this is students deserve access to the restroom, and Brent is wrong to try and limit it. So we should take action and say I should have a different bathroom policy. Or the implication is we will not understand history if we do not seek to hear the perspectives of the weak and the powerless, as well as the strong and the powerful, right? Something we should do in response to reading your paper. So, history is complicated, and because of this, it is important to tell history from multiple perspectives, right? This is my claim sentence. From Zinn, the treatment of heroes, Columbus, and their victims, Arwaks, the quiet acceptance of conquest and murder in the name of progress, is only one aspect of a certain approach to history, in which the past is told from the point of view of governments, conquerors, diplomats, leaders, right? This is the same claim, same evidence I used earlier. Now let me show you how I can use these spicy sentence starters to produce a powerful sentence. This justifies the need to take a biased look at history focused on those with the least power. The stories from the perspective of those in power have already been told. Okay? The inference to be drawn from this is history needs to be told from a new perspective, from outside the seats of power. The implication of this is history has far too long been biased, And the solution to this is to bias it in the other direction, to the perspective of those without power. So you can see here how I'm using these sentences to drive my point, to drive my argument, to interact with my claim. All right? Again, this is a challenge. Only do this if you are on track, you are ahead, and you really want to beef up your paper and spice it up. If you are behind and struggling, then just use the basics and let's get your paper done. Okay? So talk to Mr. Walmsley, excuse me, if you have any questions about this. And good luck in the paper, guys.